All right, Kev, here we go. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Belshir Vestige, the red Terran player, Startails Bomber. And I know that you have just been dying for this opportunity.
There's a story behind this, but no, Ben, you go ahead and take it away, and then we can talk about it.
Bomber's opponent in the top left-hand corner of Belshir Vestige, the blue Zerg player. Make some noise for SoulKey. SoulKey's a beast, Kev, and we see that Overlord Scout moving out nice and early, as it should be. What are you expecting to see out of these two players here on Belshir Vestige?
I'm expecting a pretty straight-up game number one, just as kind of Jeff was talking about as well. I don't think Bomber is going to go too crazy. With SoulKey, we know that he's, maybe going to cut a few corners here and there to get Mullisk out early on. But as long as SoulKey gets up to the point where he has 3, maybe 4 headshots, Ben, this SCV is up to no good.
Uh-oh.
In game number one.
Hey, man. Why not a single
refinery going down as well?
Early racks, so I guess Proxy Reaper?
Yep, I'm going to see a couple of Reapers. Anything else would be very surprising in this day and age. SoulKey's Overlord is very close to scouting it. He's not going to scout it immediately, but Ben, you as a Zerg player probably have quite some experience dealing with this kind of stuff. Where is Bomber going to take this?
I think his best hope is just to kill a few drones. As we've got Funkadella on the shout-out with the observation. Lots of drones in production right now. For SoulKey. The key for SoulKey, Kev, is to make sure not to undercommit when he realizes what's happening. He cannot allow bunkers to go up, and he does not want to be chasing Reapers with drones for too long. It's
a relatively greedy opening over here, though, by SoulKey. The extractor before the spawning pool, and then the spawning pool will down at 16. That means that he delayed this spawning pool by quite a bit. The first Reaper is already in production. This could get dicey pretty early on.
Yes, sir. There goes that bunker. SoulKey should know what's up, and he is not reacting just yet. It was still not choosing not to pull any drones. Kevin, that Reaper is going to be there in just a couple of seconds, and that will mean that it will be nearly impossible to stop that bunker from going up. SoulKey might be willing just to let that bunker finish.
Yeah. And maybe Bailing Boss on the other side of the map. I'm curious to see how much gas he is going to mine. I actually think he pulled maybe drones out of the extractor. No, he still has 3 of them on. It's definitely worth keeping a close eye on that.
He's mining with the maximum number of drones. Reaper's going to pop up into the main base, and we'll begin. Oh, man. Spawning pool having just finished. This is going to be a long time before there's going to be a queen out. SoulKey with impeccable control so far.
The SCV with the power drill. That's pretty sick.
Disassembled. As the Reaper will give chase. A second drone. It is going to go down. That SCV is on a mission.
Yeah, he's basically responsible for 2 kills already. Reaper picks up an additional drone. 3 drones going down so far. But we shouldn't forget, this is a big investment by Bomber. He's going to have to do more than pick up a few drones here and there.
So far, so good, Kev. He's going to have this bunker completed. He can pop in whenever he feels like he needs to retreat as the Zerglings very nearly catching a Reaper there. Zergling speed is on the way. More Lings in production, but SoulKey stopped mining gas with the Queen out. His main should be safe, but his natural is still in trouble.
He only has 13 drones right now, so if he would be mining gas, he's putting himself borderline on limb, because then he's just barely mining any minerals. He is going to send 2 Lings across the map, and that's very smart. That forces one of the Reapers to be defensive. The other Reaper is not in the bunker, so, Ben, as cute as this has been so far for Bomber, I feel he had to do a little more than he did.
It feels like it could have been much worse. SoulKey, of course, immediately returns to droning. He's got quite a few Lings out on the map, 10 Lings out. Zergling speed will be finishing up momentarily. It could have been worse, but I want to feel like Bomber is happy with the amount of damage he dealt because of how little he committed to it. He didn't really go. He didn't go all in with his proxy. He didn't go all out. I wanted to say he didn't go all out with the all in, but it wasn't an all in. He pulled back and he just expanded.
You see a couple of Lings for picking up that single Marine over here. So I do not think we have a single Marine out on the map. Starport going down in the main base already as well. No reactor yet on this factory. I guess he just wants to get at least 1 or 2 Hellions out on the map, because those Hellions are going to represent all of his map control. I do love that he has a barracks parked in the main base of SoulKey, and he's like, I'll see you.
This is a difficult scout to get out of your base, Kev.
Yes.
It takes a long time for a Queen to kill a barracks. First Lings are going to make their way into the natural expansion, but they're not going to be able to get a whole lot done. It's all drones right now for SoulKey, who is no doubt worried about recovering from the early damage he took, but it's looking okay for now.
Curious to see why he wants that early start put so quickly. Now he starts producing a Viking, so he's definitely like trying to do something crazy behind this man, because he wants to push away those Overlords ASAP. He wants to get that 1 Viking out that can clear the... oh, okay, there we go.
Well, this third command center should be scouted. Yes, that Overlord sees exactly what's up. SoulKey doing a great job of gathering information. Reaper Hellion should be able to chase these lings away, but it's going to be hard for Bomber to deny that third base.
But considering the fact that SoulKey just scouted this, I do feel that Bomber is giving him a free pass to make quite a few drones for quite a while. Of course, there will be a couple of Hellions cruising around the map, and those Reapers is something you have to take in mind, but there is no immediate threat for SoulKey that he's going to die against anything that Bomber is going to send across the map. So Bomber should have a really good time droning up, man.
Yeah. SoulKey is going to lose a couple of Overlords here, but beyond that...
Hey, that was interesting. He started Stim and then he cancelled it. Then he's like, no, I want a bench instead.
That is interesting. I'm not really sure why he would do that.
Okay, Cloak being researched as well, so he's kind of relying on the fact right now that these Hellions and Reapers, man, they're going to have to do quite a bit of damage. They're going to have to do more than just contain SoulKey a little bit, because if SoulKey goes crazy on the drone mode now, he's 10 workers ahead, which is not that much, because we are playing against 2 orbitals after all. Soon a third one is about to finish up. So SoulKey is not in a bad, or like Bomber is not in a bad position by any means, but he is delaying his real units or his real production for quite a while. And he's going to have to do something with these Cloak Banshees and these Hellions.
Maybe Bomber's realizing that there's no Overlords out on the map, and because of that thinks he can get some damage dealt with these early Banshees. We see 1-1 on the way now for SoulKey. This is looking a lot like how Jaedong likes to open up. We just saw Jaedong playing very convincingly against MVP.
This is looking a lot like SoulKey as well.
Very true.
Good scout here as he's going to identify, okay, double engineering base, so I don't have to worry about anything too crazy. Everything looks kind of standard so far. Second Banshee in production as well now, and on the way. We do see the Baneling as being morphed in. There is still not a single spore crawler out on the map. I do believe that first Banshee is making his way across the map without a single spore, and Leia just halfway done. That means no detection for a little while. This could get painful.
Yeah, he could stand to lose a lot here. There are 5 queens out, but with no detection, how much can those queens really do? Hellions are going to do a great job against the Zerglings. Oh, don't lose your Banshee. Oh, there we go. Cloak does go down, and these queens are going to have to run away a little bit more, and that's going to leave this third base pretty open to harassment from the Hellions, Kev.
There are a few links still helping out there, and here we can see Bomber is really going to commit to this. He's going to try to pick off as many drones as he possibly can. Picked off a queen. This is going reasonably well for Bomber.
Yeah, forcing a lot of spore crawlers. Banshee's still alive and still out for blood, Kev. He's killed that queen. He's going to probably pick up a second queen kill. All of the Hellions do get roasted, well, not roasted, killed. Only 7 drone kills in total, Roddy, and I don't know if that was worth it. He lost every single Hellion for that.
Lost a lot of map control. His marine production is starting to kick in though, as we have 15 marines, I believe, on the other side of the map. Stim is about to finish up. Medevacs are not yet out though. First Wither Mines are in production as well. It was okay for Bomber. I mean, worker-wise, this is still a good scenario. He's actually going to take the third base closer to SoulKey. I think SoulKey is going to be quite pleased with that, Ben.
Oh, Lings are going to meet some of these Marines in transit, and well, they're actually doing a ton of damage. Zergling's going to get a lot of Marine kills, although once they back into the little choke.
Beautiful movement there by Bomber, because if he would have just stood there and 1-1 was about to finish up for those Lings, it could have gotten a little rough for all those Marines, but he kept the majority of them alive. Single Zergling, making it very hard for this big ship to land.
You shall not land, says the Zergling.
You see the production tab, 28 additional links on the way. Baneling speed is more than half and done. 2-2 just started. I'm surprised by the amount of units that SoulKey is making, considering the fact that he is only at roughly 60 workers, even a little less than that. Bomber has more workers than SoulKey now.
Yeah, and he's doing a good job of making sure that it stays that way as those Banshees poke into the main once more, getting a few more kills. Zerglings, though, making their way towards this third base, and these Marines are in a lot of trouble. Quick look at the first-person view. Bomber doesn't even seem to care. He's not watching as he loses all those
Marines are dead, forget about it.
So be it. As he'll just lift the command center and bring the workers back home.
Man, I'm very surprised he took that third base so close to SoulKey. Why do you think that is? Does he want to have that staging ground, like that setup over there, and just non-stop harass the third base of SoulKey, or maybe make it even harder and harder to take that fourth base?
Massive Baneling.
Widow Mines, oh my god.
Yeah, massive Baneling force incoming. 30 Banelings on the way, a little bit of a 1-1 timing. Widow Mines are burrowing, but will it be too late? Actually, I think this is going to be terrible. As the Banelings rolling all the way into the natural, they're going to make their way straight towards the worker line. And so many SCVs are going to take big damage here. SoulKey strikes back after the Banshees and the Hellions did some annoying damage on his side of the map. He's able to pick up 25 SCV kills.
Well, Ben, I said Bomber had more workers than SoulKey, and the most important word in that sentence is had.
Yeah, well.
Once upon a time. A couple of Mews will be dropped, so it's not... actually, 39 workers is pretty bad. Yeah. I won't say it's not too bad, but still somehow a happy Zergling survived all of this. And he's chipping away.
doing work at the main base, but quickly the SCVs turn their drills on him, and down he goes.
71 drones against 39 SCVs now. Yes, a lot of mules have gone down, but 2-2 is about to finish up for SoulKey. Spire is down as well. Bomber's army is way, way bigger than the army of SoulKey, but by the time he makes it across the map, probably a lot of Lings and Banes are about to hatch. SoulKey is going to need units though, ASAP.
It's a pretty ridiculous difference in the army supplies right now. If SoulKey doesn't get some Banelings out, he could be in a lot of trouble. Banshees overhead are going to get a good feeling for what this Zerg army looks like, and here comes Bomber. He needs to deal some serious damage. He lost a lot of SCVs there. He would love to deny this third expansion. There are nearly 40 Zerglings in production.
Oh, he's unbarring the mines as well. Sick play over here by Bomber.
And the Lings not doing any damage at all, marching in single file. This third base is in massive trouble. Bomber doing a great counterattack. Zerglings continue to just stream in one by one. The Banshees and the Marines in conjunction. Just wrecking everything, and finally the Widow Mines will be allowed to fire, and they're going to do some good damage, picking off most of these Lings. Bomber does lift up his Marines after denying that hatchery. What a great push from the Startail Terran.
The control by Bomber was so sick. He unbarred his mine like 3, 4, 5 times, and SoulKey is going to call GG. Bomber with some sick execution there in the counter-aggression, Ben.
That was the most bizarre GG timing to me, but I can absolutely understand it. SoulKey losing that base, feeling that he did not have an answer to the overwhelming Terran army.
He was not going to clean it up. There were still so many mines. I think Bomber like 3, 4, 5 times unbarreled and burrowed all of the mines. SoulKey was forced to send in a couple of Lings at a time because he didn't want to run all of his Lings into a single Widow mine, and then Bomber just picked off all those Lings because he kept on borrowing them, and he had barely enough Marines to clean it up. That was very well played by Bomber.
Yeah.
Of course, he had a way bigger army. It was kind of weird that SoulKey droned up a little bit after that big Link Bane push, because he did so much damage.
Oh, he threw his whole army away to deal that damage.
And then he droned.
Yeah, you have to realize that, oh, well, I better make sure I have units in case he counters. Unfortunately, SoulKey was not prepared, and Bomber punished him for it. That's a big win for Bomber on map 1. Goes up 1-0 against one of the favorites to take this whole tournament.
Pretty bizarre game as well. Started off weird, of course, with the proxy racks. Did a little bit of damage. The counter-aggression was fun. Bomber taking that third base closer to SoulKey seemed like a bad decision for quite a while. Didn't really work in his favor, but
ultimately didn't really have a whole lot of impact because he didn't mind much from that third base. He just sort of won the game.
But it did force like SoulKey to make the moves that he did. Because I think if Bomber would have expanded towards the bottom left, it would have all been different, and maybe SoulKey wouldn't have made so many Lings or Banelings when he was just on roughly 58 to 60 drones.
Game 2 is going to be taking place on Frost, and the countdown has begun. Startail's Bomber.
SoulKey didn't look happy with it.
Yeah, with the 1-0 lead over the man we were just looking at, SoulKey.
SoulKey.
I think you need to do the intros for SoulKey this time, Kev.
I think I'm good. Anyway, game number 2 is going to be played on Frost. Quarterfinals here at BlizzCon 2013 between these two absolutely fantastic players who had a great 2013, regardless of what happens this weekend. Obviously, if there's one way to close out the year, but it's over here.
Oh man, BlizzCon Championship is what every one of these players are here for. No one came to finish second place. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Frost, the red Terran player leading 1-0. He is Bomber. And he's almost got a smirk on his face, Kev.
I mean, I wouldn't mind winning game number 1 like that. It's just like, I'm not sure how this is going.
I would have a banana grin from ear to ear, and I would not be able to play game 2. His opponent up in the top right-hand corner, trailing 0-1, the Blue Zerg player, SoulKey.
Well, we said it multiple times, man. If there's one person who knows how it feels to be behind in the series and then still come back and win, it has to be this guy. One of the very few players who was ever down 0-3 in the finals of a tournament and then came back and actually won it. Multiple times we saw people evening up the series 3-3 to then still end up losing it, but not SoulKey.
Very early scout from SoulKey. Sent out that drone at like 11 or 12 supply. Bomber right now is
aiming
for sitting back. Looks like he might be going CC first.
Yep, aiming for the command center first, so a very economic opening, and that's going to be nice for Bomber, certainly considering the fact that SoulKey is sacrificing a little bit of economy over here by sending out that drone so early. Perhaps still not too happy with how game number 1 unfolded, and he was so close, like he scouted everything around his base other than this tiny little corner, which somehow had enough space to hide a Rex in.
Yeah, that proxy really hurt him. Ultimately, like,
it just threw him
It wasn't the reason that he lost the game, but it definitely set the pace for Bomber. As he goes up 1-0 in the series. Players are cross-spawn here on Frost. This is a pretty big map. and a lot of ways that it could unfold from these positions.
Certainly, because the moment you go up to 3 or even 4 bases, there are a lot of different ways to attack. This is actually going to be annoying for Bomber. He's going to be forced to pull at least 1 SUV, maybe 2, and there we go. He's going to pull 2 SUVs for now. Because there's such a wide open area around your 4th base, and against a player like SoulKey, like we mentioned before, Ben, if there's one player who loves to just send small groups of links across the map and morph them into banelings and roll them into mineral lines, it has to be SoulKey.
This is a great map for it too. It's hard to always see everything.
It's impossible
on this map. I guess Terran might have the luxury of sensor towers very late in the game, but that's not something Bomber's going to want to be investing in early on, or even in the mid game.
Yep, and even then, you know, before you know it, a couple of links run by.
Yeah.
Not going to be easy. Anyway, Bomber is pulling off the CC first so far. Lost a little bit of minerals by pulling those SUVs, but no big deal as of yet.
Yep, so far, so good for Bomber.
No extractors going down yet for SoulKey, unless I'm mistaken, and we just completely missed it. So he's going to go up for a very economic opening, just rely on queens early on, and as he knows, he's scouted the command center first.
Yeah.
He knows that he will be more than fine in doing so.
In scouting CC first, he might even get crazy and go for a 3rd hatch before he adds any of his tech. Right now, it's just all queens and drones.
He has the money for it.
I'm kind of thinking we might see 2 more queens, but we'll see.
Wow, Bomber going super economic there, man.
Is that a 3rd command center?
Is a
Holy smokes. CC first into 1 Rax, into a 3rd command center.
Into a factory as well with the reactor. Bomber is doing all of this off 2 Marines so far, and he's actually going to get away with it, considering the fact that SoulKey opened gasless. This is a very good opening here for Bomber.
Bomber says, gee, I sure hope you're not all-inning me. And SoulKey says, well, hey, I'm just going to make 4 queens off of 2 bases and try to keep up with you that way. It's going to be a mistake for SoulKey, man. This is a great opening for Bomber.
It's not really a mistake, as he can't really do much about it.
But it's certainly he's
going to beat himself a couple of times. He's like, no, I should have gone with the 10-pull bailing. That would have worked out so well for me this game. He does have an overlord relatively close to that 3rd command center that's near the edge, and I think SoulKey is going to scout
he should see
his base in a matter of seconds, and now he's going to be like, ouch.
You know, what is that going to prompt from SoulKey, who just started mining gas? He does take a 3rd hatchery immediately. I'm not sure whether or not he was planning to do that anyway, or if it was in a reaction to that 3rd command center. But regardless, it's going to be a very long time before SoulKey's really able to do anything to try and punish this. And he's going to be a very fast layer.
Wow.
That's a cool choice. I think he's going to try to go for the quick mutas here. Something we've been seeing some Zerg players experiment off of 2 bases. SoulKey will have that 3rd hatch down, but his drone count's not that great, Kev. He's only on 41 harvesters right now.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before that will truly explode, though. But I do wonder if Bomber is going to be able to somehow identify this, and if we're going to see perhaps 1 set of extra Hellions that he can just literally run into that 3rd base and try to pick off as many drones as possible. Because with this style, it's likely that SoulKey is going to try to play as greedy as possible, as he knows that Bomber is playing very greedy. He's going to squeeze out so many drones that he might barely have any links by the time he's already banking on producing Mutalisk.
I think that Roachhorn's all about. Double Evo, Roachhorn. I have a hard time believing that was for just defensive roaches.
SoulKey. Maybe.
Yeah.
He's actually going to research missile attacks as well, Ben, so no minas yet. This is going to be quite interesting. Might see some good old Roach Hydra. Roach Speed being researched as well.
Wow, that's nuts. Why the fast layer doesn't make as much sense, but Roach Hydra's fine. I mean, it's certainly a very viable strategy. Hellions will make their way over towards the natural expansion. A few Roaches are on the way, and they should be out in time to keep these Hellions from doing any real damage.
That's a pretty fat queen over there.
Oh, man.
He parked her ass.
Way too much junk in the trunk.
8 roaches in production. That's a lot of roaches. That's way too many roaches for just defensive purposes over here, Ben. 11 speed roaches on the way already for SoulKey. SoulKey is going to commit to this big time.
And now SoulKey's plan reveals itself. A 1-1 roach timing. This can be a very effective strategy against an opponent who under-prepares. And if we look at the production tab, well, there are Widow Mines on the way, Kevin. There are a couple of Marauders out already. So if Bomber starts to sense what's happening, I feel like he should be able to put a good defense together.
There is a single Marauder out at the moment, but he can just stay on 2 bases for a while. He should immediately abandon that 3rd base as soon as he realizes what he's playing against, unless Bomber is somehow able to pull off a miracle. Losing that Overlord is going to suck a little bit, by the way, as SoulKey has quite a bit of money in the bank, and it's still going to take an additional 10-15 seconds for those new Overlords to hatch. Man, that's an expensive Overlord loss there.
Cost him a few roaches for the fight that is unfolding. Worker transfer over into that 3rd base is coming at a rough time, as the roaches are going to be knocking at that door very soon. 14 drones on the way for SoulKey, so he's going heavy macro behind this. Roach, oh man, this
a lot of SCVs
expansion
there.
is just in so much trouble. So many workers,
Oh,
it's
the
14
Marauder
workers.
as well.
Marauder is going to get doused in acid, but he does live to fight another day.
Oh, Widow Mines as well. Might actually shoot at the Roach. Oh, look at it. He knows.
Oh, using
my
the
God,
splash
SoulKey.
to take out workers.
So
Every
sick.
SCV falls. That's some pretty beautiful control there from SoulKey.
Oh my God, those are just the beautiful things in this game, man. That makes me so happy.
Yep. Overseer nearby will allow SoulKey to pick off those Widow Mines as well. So an excellent adaptation here from SoulKey, recognizing the opportunity. And look at the worker count now, 72 drones to 45 SCVs. The changeling
That's
underneath
so
the command center. He says, hey, Marine, move.
Have a taste of your own medicine. Man, what a beautiful play by SoulKey. Small things.
He'll get roasted
Amazing.
and his carcass crushed as the Roaches will turn right back around. They want to make sure that this third base never really has a chance to do any work.
Fourth base going up as well, and a macro hatchery for SoulKey, so his economy is just going to be sick. He's still going to try to use these Roaches to their fullest potential, maybe pick off a few additional SCVs, force Bomber to be relatively defensive, even though Bomber already sent out a medevac and he said, I'm going to try to make something happen. And that's definitely possible, as his army right now is way stronger than the army of SoulKey, but that Spire is halfway down. We have 24 Lings on the way, Bailing Nest is on the way as well. He needs Roaches in position, though, to deal with that drop.
Absolutely. The weakness of Roach styles is its immobility, and this drop is quickly making its way towards the natural expansion of SoulKey. But there's a Spore Crawler there. Lings underneath, and Queens offering some supplemental fire. These medevacs take a ton of damage, and it's, one of them's going to go down. Now the Roaches are here, too, and Bomber's attempt at evening the score is going to fall flat as this medevac evacuates a few men down. Second prong to the attack, making its way over to the third base.
The phase of the game where Terrans are so scary, though. More Marines being unloaded on the high ground. That's going to be annoying. Most of the Roaches are here, though, to push this drop away as well. Bomber wishes he had a few more bio units to work with, because then he can just keep this up non-stop until the Mulas enter the fray. And we do have 9 Mulalisk on the way right now.
Kev, what a superb defense so far from SoulKey. He hasn't taken any real damage. And with the Mutas coming out, it's going to be even harder for Bomber to drop. It's kind of interesting seeing SoulKey transition from 1-1 Roaches back into Zergling, Baneling, Muta.
I love
that's exactly what we're seeing.
I love how this single changeling forced that entire orbital to relocate. Oh, actually, it's a Roach. Well, that changeling evolved.
Yeah. Glial reconstitution, Kev. It turns your changelings into Roaches. You thought they were cheap before.
Please not. Please no. There's a lot of Marines over here for Bomber, though, so SoulKey is definitely going to have to be careful about how he wants to go at this. At the moment, he doesn't have too many Banelings and Zerglings. He has 12 Lings, 14 Banelings, which is easily enough to defend with, but not really enough to attack with. He does have that superb economy of 85 drones.
And he's got a massive economy. He can afford to just start trading basically any time now. Once SoulKey maxes out, it's going to be non-stop aggression for the rest of the game. Mutas will show their faces for the first time here, making their way over into the main base. And what do they find? Just a few idle workers? Well,
a couple of exposed SCVs. There's not a single missile turret up here in the main base, so a couple of Marines will fall. I love he's always bringing an Overseer as well. She'd rather be safe than sorry, man.
Big reaction with the entire army of Bomber going back in response to these Mutas, and that's enough to get them to go home. Meanwhile, it's Zerglings, Mutas, and Banelings on the production tab. +3 attack has begun for Bomber, Kev. One thing he's done exceptionally well this game is keep his upgrades moving. And 3-3 is not too far away.
It's actually pretty sick, considering the fact that +2 melee just started for SoulKey. Freeze spray is going to be extremely important, and so far it's been done very well by SoulKey. He's almost covering the southern Zelnaga watchtower. This is the SoulKey that we know and love, man. A hit squad of Roaches and a couple of Banelings over here on the left side of the map are going to roll into this completely exposed third base.
So brutal, finds the opening. These workers are going to have a real hard time. Banelings making their way towards the Marines. The Roaches can deal with the SCVs. And a nice little attack here from SoulKey. He's going to deal some serious damage to the economy. And here comes the reinforcements. Oh man, SoulKey's trying to pick a big fight.
And he does have to be careful, because as you pointed out, the upgrades are heavily in favor of Bomber, so maybe he wants to hang in there a little longer.
Bomber's army is actually huge. 152 Terran army supply. SoulKey's got to be so careful. He will counterattack into the natural, and that's going to force some of Bomber's units to come back. But again, Banelings finding an exposed mineral line, SCV is forced to be pulled, but I think a lot of them are going to end up dying.
Oh my god, that's so many Marines over here.
This is a massive Marine push moving across the map, Kevin. 86 Marines out of the map right now for Bomber. SoulKey has got to get perfect connections. He cannot afford to take a bad fight. All comes down to this, and initially Bomber's not microing at all. Here comes the splits, and he will trade a little bit better here with the next wave of the attack. Banelings continue to roll forward. Muta's overhead, but it's not going to matter. The Banelings melting away. Bomber started with 86 Marines, and 51 are still alive. SoulKey, how are you going to stop this push?
Oh, a couple of Banelings looking for those big connections, getting reasonable connections, but it's still not enough. SoulKey needs more than what he's getting. He is getting hyped though, but that's not going to matter for a while. He has over 50 links in production.
Bomber hit the ultimate timing. The Marines pushing forward into the natural now. And there are no Banelings. There's 3 Banelings out on the map. There are 20 morphing somewhere, but okay, they're in the natural.
The Marauders are going to soak up all these Banelings though, at least the majority of them. Here come the Mutalisks to help out. This is going to be so close. SoulKey needs a miracle to hang in there.
These Banelings have got to be heroes. SoulKey's natural's in a lot of trouble. Banelings rolling forward. Marauders want to take it. The Marines kiting backwards. A lot of Marines fall, but a lot are still left over. And with only 5 Mutas overhead, SoulKey might be dead.
Are you for real?
Oh my God, GG Bomber. Wow. He was dead. His economy had been ravaged. SoulKey was everywhere, and just like that, Bomber marches across the map with more than 80 Marines and ends the game. Some of the most decisive play we've seen from the Startail Terran maybe ever. What an impressive performance there on Frost.
That was fantastic. He split his Marines so well as well. He only had like 2 or 3 mines in that first push, but he was doing such a fantastic job at leaving a couple of Marines shooting it all the time and pulling the majority of them back. Sick micro there by Bomber, but once more I feel that SoulKey, you know, he has a good idea of what's going on. He's dealing nice economic damage, but then it's getting a little too greedy. He's going up too high. He doesn't really have an army, and as you pointed out, it was like 150 army supply from Bomber. That's insane. That means that he was maxed out with less than 50 workers, something like that. SoulKey needs all the units he can possibly get on that moment, and the moment he has actually like 30-40 supply out on the map, and he already has 30-40 less army supply, there's almost no way you can deal with a Terran army that big and that has an upgrade advantage.
Look at SoulKey's reaction, taking his hands off the keyboard. Cannot believe what just happened as he taps out. Bomber keeping it cool, man.
I'm starting to feel more and more like this is the Bomber
man,
that we saw.
Look at SoulKey, so emotional. This has got to be tough for him. He's now down 0-2 in this best of 5. Means he's got 3 match points ahead of him. And you pointed out something that I didn't even realize until you said it. Bomber is playing an a style that's almost devoid of Widow Mines. That was almost exclusively Marine Marauder.
86 Marines out on the map. That's so insane.
That's
I mean, that's something
so old school. That is so old school to be that Marine heavy.
That's something we often see, like super late game when Terran only has like 30 SCVs left or something, and you know, and they're able to do something like that. But that amount of Marines in that phase of the game with an upgrade advantage, that's so deadly, certainly in the hands of a player like Bomber. And Ben, how decisive he's winning these games. Like when he moves out to win. This is starting to feel more and more like the Bomber we saw win at Gamescom.
It's a crazy thought. He making his resurgence at BlizzCon. We're moving on to Akalon Waste, game number 3. And SoulKey, the #1 ranked player in the WCS, is 1 map from elimination.
The best Zerg in the world, the most consistent Zerg throughout the entire year. Down 0-2.
Hard to believe. Kevin spawning in the top left-hand corner of Akalon Waste. The red Terran player representing Startail, he is Bomber. And his opponent in the bottom right-hand corner of Akalon Waste, representing the Woongjin Stars, a player who is heralded as being the best Zerg in the world, but who is also 1 map from elimination. Let's hear it for SoulKey.
He needs the support more than ever now, Ben.
I am just thinking back to the mass Marine styles of old, and thinking to why they ever stopped being seen. And really it was because of Infestors that we stopped seeing mass Marine, because Infestors shut it down so hard. And that might be something SoulKey's going to need a few of if Bomber's going to continue making this many Marines.
But on creep and against Banelings with even upgrades, it's still very, very hard to pull off.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Bomber's control was absolutely sick. But he was
and also if he hits 10-15 seconds later, it's going to be a little easier for SoulKey to identify that he's indeed facing a massive army. I'm sure that SoulKey thought like, okay, that's a pretty big army, but I'm just going to distract him and buy a little bit of time. But then Bomber was somehow able to stabilize on the other side of the map with the few units that he still had. And then he just marched across the map with a ridiculous Terran army.
I can't believe Bomber is up 2-0 over SoulKey right now. SoulKey once again sitting across a very early drone scout.
Sacrificing a few resources, of course nothing too crazy. Bomber is opening most likely with a no gas fast expand, as I didn't see any refineries going down.
Yep, I think we'll be seeing a command center very soon from Bomber.
It's a very traditional opening here from Bomber. Good old Wings of Liberty stuff.
What if he just threw down 6 more barracks now?
That would be quite something, man. I would clap for every single one of those barracks.
7 claps. But instead we're going to see an SCV starting a command center on the low ground.
Very slowly though.
Yeah. Slow, methodical, well thought out.
Interesting. Now this is an opening that SoulKey doesn't have anything to fear of. This is probably the build that he's played most against throughout his entire career, whether it's Wings of Liberty or Heart of the Swarm. So let's see where SoulKey wants to take this.
Yes, sir.
You know, like a best of 5 always sounds so long, but after 2 quick games like that, after 2 small mistakes from SoulKey and 2-time Bomber just being so decisive and just winning the game immediately when he feels he can, which is so much like he was going through Gamescom every single time he was playing against Protoss. That's a lot of minerals as well, but a couple of Queens will be started immediately. You know, this is how he won Gamescom, and every single time that Bomber had a small window to win the game, he did win the game.
Man, so impressive. I'm so impressed with Bomber right now. His command center is finishing up. 2 more racks going down behind it, so the most standard 1 racks fast expand we could ask for. SoulKey, on the other hand, is doing what he's been doing. He's getting lots of queens. He's getting lots of drones. He's going to want to be spreading creep and injecting.
Like a TVP opening, man. Feels like Bomber is playing against Protoss.
A little bit.
This is a mirror image of how Terrans like to open against Protoss players that are known for aggression. Sometimes they like to go with 2 racks.
A couple of Zerglings going to be poking up the ramp into the natural. They're going to be greeted by a few Marines, but should be able to confirm that there is a command center there.
You know, without that 3rd command center this game, man, SoulKey, if he can't scout it, he might still think it's going to be there, because hey, why would you want to change a winning strategy, right? So far it has worked very well for Bomber to open up very economically. This game, however, it could be possible that he's going to get stim ridiculously quick, as we can already see 50 gases being mined. And if he's able to catch SoulKey off guard with a crazy stim timing, we could be looking at the end of the series. We would just be insane. I don't even want to think about it.
Man, it's so hard to believe, too. SoulKey's always been phenomenal against aggressive timings, and I think Bomber has shown us that he's not winning with cheesy stuff. He's winning with just really immaculate play that's garnered to the late game.
I don't know how this is going to work out for SoulKey, man. Roach Warren going down, speed being researched as well.
Man.
SoulKey might be looking into a Roach Bane. But I think that Bomber is going to produce a ridiculous amount of units. Did the Overlord see the tech lab, though? That's the big question, though.
Surely he's not going to go Roach Bane. I don't think he's got enough gas for that.
Okay, that's a...
Well,
did he
maybe.
did he cancel? He canceled Stim, no? I think he canceled Stim.
I will check.
And he started researching Combat Shield.
He did.
Because I think he's afraid of... I don't know what he saw on the other side of the map, but I think he's afraid of maybe a Roach Bane all in, and maybe in that situation it would be better for
there's enough gas for a lot of Roaches. There have been a couple Overlords just built. SoulKey has gone up to about 42 drones, so he's got a solid 2-base economy. Bomber, what are you doing pushing across the map like this?
I really think that Bomber wanted to go for some sort of a stim timing. Now he's forcing out a lot of units with this as well. This is still scary. This is a lot of Marines.
Is he forcing out units, or are these units that SoulKey wanted to build anyway? That's what we don't really know.
No. Well, that's something we can't possibly know. But
Baneling Nest is also going to go ahead and go down.
Then Bomber is really going to have to cherish these few Marines that he has. Yes, he is on 3 racks. He's producing quite a few Marines. Oh, those Queens have to run to creep. Oh, man. This has been a pretty crazy TVC so far, man, with a couple of mind games. Bomber, I think, trying to go for a sneaky stim timing, but not being able to pull it up because SoulKey scouted it. But now, are these Marines too far out of position against what is coming?
I mean, off creep, they should be able to get away. Does Bomber realize what's happening is the real question. 2 bunkers do go down. More units in production. There's a factory being built. He's definitely going to want to get a couple of Widow Mines out. 21 Marines. With bunkers, I think, oh man, it will still be close. Bomber's probably going to want to build a couple more bunkers.
First Marauders is going down as well. He already has a defensive bunker. I think Bomber is in a great position, man. SoulKey is investing a lot of resources into making this work, but I think that Bomber has accidentally chosen the perfect build to defend against this. Or maybe not all that accidentally.
Here come the Banelings, 18 Banelings. That is enough to crash through these bunkers. More roaches and lings on the way. And Bomber is so hip to what's going on here. He's throwing down defensive structures left and right. Where are the Widow Mines? He's got no Widow Mines in production. There is nothing that deals area of effect damage. It's just Marines and Marauders against roaches and Banelings. Here comes SoulKey.
Oh, sick focus fire on those Banelings immediately out of those bunkers. There's still a lot of roaches and Banelings though.
Oh man, everything hinges on this. Banelings waddle forward and do kill a few Marines and Marauders, but so far Bomber's done a phenomenal job defending. SCV's gonna fall here in short order. Oh, it's a big connection. So many SCVs falling. Now there's nothing left to repair, and suddenly it's roaches and speedlings against just a handful of bio units. 10 more Banelings being morphed right in the face of Bomber. SoulKey might have done it.
Wow, those Baneling connections, man, were surprisingly good, blowing up a ridiculous amount of Marines and SCVs at the same time. Bomber falling all the way back to 33 supply. This was a pretty crazy TVZ, but it's looking very good for SoulKey now.
And Bomber is going to tap out. Good game, SoulKey, with the commitment to Roach Baneling aggression. Takes game number 3 on Akalon Wastes. That, but not quite, with Bomber just getting battered and battered.
The first time Bomber moved out, he won.
Yeah, but he moved out with 160 army supply. That's a pretty...
Yeah, I know. As Jeff said, he's like, oh, I accidentally moved maxed out on 2 bases. Well...
All right, Kev, we're going to go ahead and hop on over into our 4th map.
It was pretty sick as well, because SoulKey took absolutely 0 damage from the drops on Frost. And then Bomber is like, well, if you don't take damage from drops, let's just max out. Yeah,
let's just max out and go win. Here we are on Yansu, and spawning in the top right-hand corner of the map. The Red Terran player leading 2-1. He is Startail Bomber. And his opponent in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Currently down 1-2, but did just pick up the win on Akalon Waste. Must win here if he wants to keep his BlizzCon hopes alive. He is SoulKey.
And I'm very curious to see how Bomber is going to open here on Yangtze Ben. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy like the 3-Rex opening we just saw. Probably much more, maybe a Reaper into expand into a quick factory once more, or anything like that. Because, you know, last game, perhaps he was up 2-0, or I mean, he was up 2-0 and he thought, like, you know what, I can switch things up a little bit. I can go a little crazy and try to pull off something. Something he did multiple times during Season 2 as well. He also had a couple of crazy barracks builds where he just marched across the map. Even did it in one of the games against Jaedong, if you remember.
Yes, sir. Something else that we've been seeing a lot is this early drone scout from SoulKey. Sending it out at 12 supply. He's done this every single game thus far, and
kind of destroying his own economy with it. That's what some of the Protoss players would say. But hey, there's a lot on the line, and in game 1 he did get caught off guard, and he said never again.
Oh, this time he's going to see, oh, you're going command center first. Wonder if he might try doing something like 3 hatch before spawning pool. There's that CC going down on the high ground for Bomber. Last time he went command center first, it worked out for him. Still no spawning pool from SoulKey. He's up to 17 supply.
Either it's the most economic spawning pool, or he's indeed going to go for another hatch. We will see.
I think that is what we're going to see. Drones moving out right now.
Here we go, the good old triple hatch before spawning pool. One of the most economic ways Zerg can possibly open. Unless you're Cats, you like to get a 4th one. But
yep, Cats will put that 4th one like between the natural and 3rd base to just make the creep connects nice and fast.
Don't really want to do it against Terran though.
That's YOLO style, like your Cats. El Capitan.
Refinery going down in the main base of Bomber, and most likely Benes is going to be 1 or 2 Marines, and he's immediately going to try to get the reactor in the factory, or maybe 1 Reaper to get some scouting done early on. But this should work out well for SoulKey, as long as he doesn't get surprised in a certain phase of the game.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay economically. There's not really any reason to think that this is necessarily going to favor one way more than the other. This is both players saying, hey, I'm going to sit back and play macro. Neither of these guys have played much Yansu in the WCS. They're both 1-0 on the map, so we could say they're undefeated. Somebody's undefeated record will be broken here.
It will be a day to remember, right? The day I lost my first WCS match on Yansu.
Bomber did get a pretty early gas, Kevin. It looks like he's going to be using it for a factory.
Yeah, and I mean, the other game when he did this, he just made 2 Marines, dropped the factory, and then he dropped an additional command center. I think this is the exact same build as we saw on Frost, because Bomber is like, hey, that worked pretty well on the Frost, let me just do that all over again. Back then, we shouldn't forget, yes, Bomber did go for that 1-1 timing with the roaches, which worked out okay, did a lot of damage, very cute move with the roach, absorbing the Widowmine shot, but at the end of the day, the opening was still way better economically for Bomber than it was for SoulKey. So SoulKey was fighting an uphill battle economically. Now on the other end, we're looking at 3 hatcheries before spawning pool. Now SoulKey is probably like, bring it on with your 3 command centers. I'm doing the exact same thing, but even a little greedier.
Yeah, both these guys, well, this is basically the macro game you're asking for, Kev. Both these guys are going to sit back and build lots of stuff, and then they're going to throw that stuff at each other.
It's almost Christmas after all, Ben. I should get what I wish for.
You know, you've been a good boy.
Yeah, I know.
Lots of queens coming out here for SoulKey. He's got 2, soon to be 4, maybe even soon to be 5. So he's going to be able to spread a lot of creep.
Did Bomber scout a single time in this game? Because as far as I know, he didn't.
Scouting's overrated, according to Bomber Kev. He gets extra command centers so that he can drop a scan every now and then. He literally has not moved out on the map at all. He's playing completely blind. And that could be something that SoulKey might be able to punish in Game 5 should we go to that.
SoulKey is trying to sacrifice a couple of overlords over here to figure out what is going on. He will see that third orbital, so I think this is pretty much what he was expecting, man. I think this is what he was banking on, so this should be good. That overlord saw what it needed to see as well, saw the factory, saw everything. Good stuff so far for SoulKey, I'd say. This is what he was hoping for. This is what he's playing against, basically, with his build order early on. A siege tank in production. Bomber perhaps a little worried after what happened on Echelon Waste. And he's going to be like, hey, I should get a siege tank.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice, and maybe well, it's hard to call it a misread when he hasn't really scouted. First Talion has crossed the map, and it sees that there's a 3rd base down, so that 1 siege tank will probably be the only siege tank we see for the time being.
But I mean, by the time that he scouted this, he has no idea whether this was 3 hatch before pool, or if this was a hatch that went down at the 5-minute mark, or even just went down, and the creep spray is just very good, as he didn't even send that Hellion all the way in. So SoulKey, I mean, Bomber is still pretty much in the dark. Once more, Ben throwing down those double engineering base, and that's pretty much what
he
made
did
him
see the completed hatchery, so he knows that it's done.
Okay.
But you're right. He doesn't necessarily know exactly how much Bomber or how much SoulKey is committed to drones versus units. We do see a small swell of units coming here from SoulKey. He's got a few lings out on the map. He's going to make 10 roaches. Oh, he's making more than just 10 roaches.
Looks like he's actually going to commit to this a little bit. He's on 44 drones now. This is something he could potentially transition out of, but if he deals absolutely no damage, which is always unlikely with a Roach Banal in, but that siege tank, and certainly with the 2nd siege tank in production, SoulKey, if I was SoulKey, Ben, I would maybe try to send in that additional overlord to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think Bomber might know what's happening. He should see. He had Zelnaga control, so he should see those units moving across the map. He's probably going to want to build a couple more bunkers, Kev. Oh, what are you doing moving your tank out?
No, don't do that.
Bomber, this is...
No.
This cannot be...
But I think this actually might help SoulKey, Ben, because now SoulKey's going to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Well, he's still going to send in a lot of units. I don't think you should do this, SoulKey.
This tank is in a lot of trouble. It's going to get picked off immediately. 2nd tank on the high ground is going to try to help, but the wall's going to go right down, and now Banelings are in the natural expansion of Bomber.
Well, the Banelings actually getting, no, I won't say reasonable connection. The roaches are still going to be annoying. It's kind of weird that Bomber moved the tank out, and that definitely hurts him a little bit here. We can already see SoulKey transitioning behind this with 14 additional drones, but how much damage will these roaches do?
You know, honestly, it looks like not that much. The number of SCVs killed is only 5, and the roaches may get a handful more, but there's a siege tank preventing them from really pushing any further forward.
It is definitely slowing Bomber down, though, but we shouldn't forget those upgrades are once more rolling already, Ben. Armory is on the way as well, so Bomber is still going to enjoy that upgrade lead once more.
Yep, Marines cleaning up the last of these roaches, and with that, it's now 47 SCVs to 62 drones, a grand total of 6 SCVs killed in that attack. Was that worthwhile? I don't feel like it really hurt Bomber, but I also don't feel like it really hurt SoulKey.
SoulKey bought a lot of time for himself. He was running up behind this, but still his upgrades are going to be quite delayed. His stack is a little bit delayed. Layer is just about to finish up, which is not terrible, but it's still going to take a little while before his Mutalisk are really going to be in production if he wants to commit to Mutas, which is very likely. As you can see, the Spy going down immediately. I don't know, Ben. I still think that's something that Bomber could definitely live with. Being down 14 SCVs while having 3 orbital commands and having a small tech advantage and upgrade advantage.
Not so bad.
Doesn't sound all that bad to me.
Not so bad. Dropping his mules at the 3rd base. Bomber's economy is pretty good. We see his medevac production has begun. He's also maintained this siege tank production, which is not something I expected to see out of him.
I haven't seen this in a long time. Bomber is going to back to his roots.
Yeah, man. Bio tank, of course.
Tank. Maybe a couple of winner mines as well eventually, even though there's not a single reactor yet on any of the factories. But we will see. SoulKey is not really in a position to make anything happen aggressively, I feel, after he decided to make something happen early on. He tried, got some damage done, slowed Bomber down a little bit, but in this phase of the game, it's just all about defending and macroing up for SoulKey rather than actually attacking.
First medevac drop out on the map, being chased by some Zerglings. It looks like it's headed for the main base where there are more units waiting, so this should not do any real damage. At the same time, though, Bomber's pushing out onto the creep, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen him scan to kill a single tumor. Bomber, you are going deep towards that third base. This is a little bit dangerous, committing your army this far forward on creep against speed banelings.
A lot of tanks over here, though, and SoulKey doesn't have too many units. He has to be so careful about how he wants to engage this. Meanwhile, there's a drop in the main base as well, dealing a little bit of damage, but this push is starting to get very real. SoulKey had enough units in the main, but can he actually deal with these tanks on the high ground?
Connections are not very good. SoulKey's trying to come in from both sides, but good control from Bomber, and the banelings all go down. SoulKey suddenly has miscalculated this attack. The drop still alive in his natural. Good control from Bomber once more. Focus fire on the banelings. And still there are Marines, but this time that Marine count gets thinned out just a little bit. Hatchery coming under fire.
This is such a bizarre pushback. Combat Shield wasn't even ready yet when this started, but so far it's looking extremely good for Bomber. He's up 30 supply now. There are only 3 Middleisk on the way. That's really not scary. Reinforcements are making their way across the map as well. Oh my god, I think Bomber is going to do this.
With reinforcements arriving and SoulKey giving up all the mining at his third base, Bomber is putting himself into a phenomenal position. He's killed 1 hatchery, does not want to lose Marines to banelings, and of course he will not, because he falls back to the cover of that tank line. This hatchery is going to go, well, it hasn't gone down yet as the Marines get back into a corner, and a good connection there from SoulKey.
A couple of Marines are still active over here, though. They could stim down any given moment and pick up that hatch. SoulKey on only an 88 supply is producing as many links as he can, but he's just not going to be able to get the great engagement that he's looking for.
Yeah, he's having a hard time. He has not been able to make one decisive attack into that Terran army where he just completely shuts it down. Look at the worker count, 62 to 59. That's a great great situation for Bomber, a very difficult one for SoulKey. Here goes his 3 mutas.
The good old 3 muta hit squad going to try to pick up a few SCVs. It's going to take them a little while, but eventually they get it done.
And Bomber pushes forward, so brave on creep. The Marines fanning out. They're going to be very difficult to deal with. As we look at the first-person view of Bomber, who's kind of laughing at these 3 Marines, but will pull his SCVs in spite of it.
Bomber's like, oh, haven't seen that in a while.
Better stop all mining. Here come the Marines of Bomber pushing up towards the natural now. SoulKey's in so much trouble. He's getting a single corruptor. That had to be a misclick.
Bomber's supply is just getting absolutely out of control. 2-2 has finished up for him as well. 170 supply here for our Terran player.
These 3 mutas have been the most effective mutas ever. They've already killed 10 SCVs.
They have been going to town indeed, but still SoulKey just doesn't have the time, man, to get the army out that he needs to deal with this push of Bomber, and this army of Bomber just keeps on growing.
Bomber's in the third base. Bomber's in the natural. SoulKey cannot defend either location. He's going to pull his drones. He's going to lose another base. There's a drop in the main. Banelings are not responding to it. A drop in the back of the natural. Bombers everywhere at once, and SoulKey's fallen to pieces. 177 supply against 90. Banelings do finally show up to save the day, but not before that hatchery goes down. And Bomber continues to out-multitask SoulKey at every turn.
SoulKey now down to 2 bases, man. 2 mining bases, that's everything. Meanwhile, there are Marines, Marauders, and a lot of medevacs all over the map. A couple of tanks are still alive as well. I can't believe the best of 5 Bomber just played against SoulKey.
Unreal, Kevin. He's up nearly 100 supply. The final reinforcing push. Crossing the map, good game. Startail Bomber has just defeated SoulKey with a score of 3-1. Another massive upset here from Blue.